Hello and welcome to CCC TV, where CCGs and RPGs are a way of life. I'm Card Counter Chris. Welcome to today's deck tech. In the last deck tech, we went over Abzan Yuna, and the deck was strong. It got me to Mythic super quick, but I always feel like there's different ways we could go about a deck. Today, I wanted to spice it up with 5-color Yuna with dragons. Now, generally, competitive and 5-color don't really go together, but as you'll see, because of the mana base and the way our ramp package works, this actually is very viable. And even in a standard that doesn't have the greatest meta, the mana still works. If you watched the other video, you know we had the ramp package with Llanowar Elf, Summon Fenrir, and Overlord of the Hauntwoods. All three are still here, and all for the same reasons. Llanowar is a great one-drop that ramps us into the other pieces of ramp on 2 and 3. Summon Fenrir gets even more usage here, going from 5 basics to 7, meaning we could go find whatever color we need and fix all of our mana while ramping ahead. Overlord of the Hauntwoods does something similar, but instead of finding basics, it just gives us all 5 colors by itself and is amazing in this list. One of the advantages to going 5-color means we get access to red again. And we don't want to just play any red or all the red, but specifically, we want to have access to a couple Terras. That way we can mill 5 and put an enchantment card that was milled this way back into our hand. And it gives us access to Rydia, which with playing Summon Fenrir, like the Naya versions, but also because we're playing Summon Primal Odin, like the Abzan version, gives us even more targets with Rydia to bring back sagas. It also works with Awaken the Honored Dead, which we would get from the blue version, which we haven't gone over any of those yet. So Rydia gets a lot more work in this version of the deck than it does in Naya, and obviously it couldn't be played in Abzan. Terra plus Overlord is a great way to mill and get into our threats and bring them back. That's why Rydia is kind of included in this package. Awaken the Honored Dead, we mainly have as the removal package, but it does mill 3 as well, so it does still contribute to that theme of filling up the graveyard. This version of Yuna is going to ramp far faster than any of the others with fueling the graveyard. Now, we also have to talk about the recursion. Now, we've got Yuna to be able to bring enchantments back from the graveyard. Just like the Abzan version, we have access to Virtue of Persistence, which is going to bring things back from the graveyard. Even though Overlord mills, it's also bringing things back from the graveyard. Terra is also going to mill and bring stuff back. So we are also gaining a lot of recursion through that process, as well as with Awaken the Honored Dead on the 3rd trigger, bringing back a creature card or a land card from the graveyard to the hand. Typically, this is going to be better for creatures, but since we are playing a bunch of one-off basics, if you mill your basic land, Awaken the Honored Dead is a great way to go find that basic land and bring it back. Additionally, what blue gives us in addition to Awaken the Honored Dead, which we'll get back into in a minute, is access to blue Overlord for card draw and Meringue River Regent. Now, it seems kind of awkward to do a 1-for-1 split here, but it's important to remember that Overlord of the Balmurk brings back non-avatar creatures. So the more Overlords we play, the less targets we have for Overlord of the Balmurk. Overlord of the Flood Pits is probably the better card in this deck, but being able to bring the Meringue back and then still have a similar draw effect isn't irrelevant, so I did a 1-for-1 split there. Finally, the 2 cards that don't really fit into a package that we want to discuss is still Esper Origins, which just fits really nicely in the deck because we can utilize it with Bitter Triumph, which we'll get to in a minute. And it's also really good at putting cards into the graveyard, and the best part of it is the backside, which if we mill, we get immediate access to. And then White Overlord as a one-of, because it's really good in the aggro matchups, and sometimes you want to clog the board. But other times the other Overlords are just doing more and it feels better. So it's still included as a one-of in the main deck, and then we have a second one in the sideboard when we get into the sideboard. Finally, rounding out the deck, we have the removal suite. Just like the Abzan version, we're running Bitter Triumph. This time we're running 3 instead of 4 because we get access to other premium removal, which we'll go through in a minute. But this is still really good because it destroys any creature or planeswalker for us. And we could discard a card to help fuel the graveyard to bring something back with Yuna, including our Overlords or an Esper Origin or anything else that's relevant. Honored the Awakened Dead, like we were mentioning with the mill package on the second part of the saga, will mill 3 cards, but being able to destroy target non-land permanent is huge. It helps with artifact and enchantment hate, planeswalker hate, creature hate. It doesn't matter. It gets rid of whatever we need. It mills things, and then it lets us bring things back and discard to refuel the graveyard. So by playing 2 of these, we are going down 1 Bitter Triumph from the other list. Disruptive Stormbrood still makes the deck as a 1 of instead of a 2 of. It is a removal spell that can get rid of either a creature with power 3 or less, or destroy a target artifact or enchantment. But being creature-based means we can bring it back with Overlord of the Balmurk, making it more relevant than something like a 4th Bitter Triumph, where if we mill it away, there's no way to get the card back. Finally, we are playing a Summon Primal Odin. This does have Saga synergy like we mentioned with Iridia. We can bring it back with Terra. We can bring it back with Overlord of the Balmurk. We can bring it back with Yuna. It hits everything at the top of the curve. And also with Yuna giving our creatures trample, it is surprisingly good at being able to finish opponents off with the second activation. Finally, we are playing 1 Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. It is still a good card. It's one of the reasons that people were playing Naya. 4 damage, especially with Yuna giving it lifelink, isn't irrelevant. But I also feel like there's a lot of X5s in the format and things that it doesn't hit to where I don't justify playing more than 1 in the main and a second in the sideboard. I haven't tested it yet, but Pain for All might actually work better than Overlord in this list. It would cost 1 less red mana to cast, but it wouldn't benefit from the mana base with Cavern of Souls. Finally, getting into the mana base, like we were saying that the ramp package made everything work and fixed the mana, and that's true. But the other secret to the mana base is playing 4 of Cavern of Souls. And a 5th copy essentially with Secluded Courtyard, even though it doesn't give the uncounterable ability. But since so many of our creatures are Overlords, we could put it on Avatar to be able to get the second colored mana when necessary. We are playing the Meringue River Regent and the Disruptive Stormbrood, and we do have the Scavenger Regents in the sideboard, so Dragon is also perfectly reasonable. And we can also name human between having Iridia, Terra, and Yuna in the deck. In a pinch, you really don't want to name Elf, but if you were able to ramp there from Summon Fenrir or Overlord of the Hauntwoods, you can name Elf on 1 to get your Land of War online and then fix your mana from there as well. Going into the sideboard, we do have 2 copies of Nowhere to Run. This is mainly for being able to get around the hexproof for Pixies. This is also good as just being good cheap removal if we need more of it for aggro matchups. Clarion Conqueror is still in the list. It does shut down Keen-Eyed in the red-green Delirium lists. It doesn't play so nicely with our own Keen-Eyeds or our Land of War Elves, but the effect's still powerful enough that we want access to it. We do have Artifact and Enchantment hate through Awaken the Honored Dead and Disruptive Stormbrood, but being able to have access to exile effects for the enduring creatures in blue and white is very relevant. That way they can't persist onto the battlefield as enchantments and provide value. So we do like to break down the doors. Because the sideboard's a little more packed, we're playing 1 Surak instead of the normal 2. But being able to draw cards off removal lets us play a more mid-range grindy matchup against control, and having a 4/3 for 3 that we could get down on turn 2 with Elf is really good against the decks that go underneath of us. While my other lists have been playing Scavenging Ooze, this version is running Keen-Eyed because we're 5 colored instead of being 3 or 4 colored. Getting green is a little harder to do, and being able to activate Keen-Eyed for a generic mana is more relevant than the life gain or the continuous growing from Skoos on 2 mana. This list is playing 1 Coral of the Void for the Mirror or for other mid-range decks or Reanimator lists, so we can yoink their best creature out of their graveyard. Scavenger Regent is still the board wipe of choice because we could get it back with Overlord of the Balmurk, which means if we mill it, it's not dead. We can also name Dragon to help cast it as a creature as well and make it uncounterable, and sometimes a 4/4 flying with Ward is just enough to win the game. Finally, we have a red and a white Overlord in the sideboard Those are typically going to be for the aggro matches. Otherwise, the deck is very similar to the Abzan version, but it provides a little more power and a little more speed at a slightly wonkier mana base. If you've got questions or comments, please leave them for me. I would love to hear it. Thank you for tuning in. Have a nice day. CCC out.